I am someone who has never written anything before. Hello, what's up? I really wanted to come on, and this whole series is talking about how to get published. Because right now, I just signed my contract with a publishing house. It's New Degree Press is publishing my book in August of 2021, which is really close and really far away at the same time. And so I'm about 15 weeks out from getting my book published. And so I wanted to make this series for two reasons. One, I wanted to procrastinate. I'm supposed to be editing right now, and I don't want to do that. So this seemed like a really really efficient use of my time to help me with the book. And also, second, is to show you that writing a book actually can be easy. It doesn't have to be really hard of you lock yourself away in a cabin and you sit there and write, and it doesn't work like that. So I am someone who has never written anything before. I've never even had a book idea before. I just kind of had the idea one day and ran with it. And now here we are, like 20,000 words later, and I'm writing a book. So I want to quickly backtrack of where I just came from and then what I'm about to go into. And if you want to know the whole first 6 months about writing the book and how I actually found an editor, found a publishing house, all of that, that can be separate. But what just happened was my pre-sale launch ended. So about 6 weeks ago now, I signed a contract with New Degree Press, and it was to have my book published. But they're a hybrid publishing agency. So a lot of people think of the two standard ways to get your book out there. One is traditional publishing. That's where you pitch an idea. They go, yes, we will give you a check to write it. And then you spend the next year or two writing it. And they have a say on what gets included. They have the say on the cover, on the name, all of that. They own the rights. Then on the other hand, you have self-publishing. You write it, you upload it to Amazon yourself, you maybe print it yourself, and it's all on you. And hybrid publishing is in the middle. So I am owning 100% of my rights at the end of the day. But because I'm owning 100% of my rights, and they're the ones that set me up with the editors, with, getting it marketed, all of that, there's some costs up front that they require because they're not going to be getting a percentage of any of my sales. And so in order to fund that and to keep all of the ownership in myself, I didn't want to sell it out. I had to pre-sell some copies. So I just ran a 30-day campaign where the goal was $5,000 to get published. That would cover the 5 different editors that I've had. I'll go into each one of their roles later. And then, just basic costs like laying out and uploading online, and we haven't gotten there yet. But I reached the 5,000 goal. I actually got 5,100. People are actually interested. I ended up selling, I think it's around like 200 to 300 books, which that's a lot of people. And I know that each person that reads it, it will be helped. So I'm glad that at least I got those initially out. So that's what just happened. I just spent the past 4 weeks doing that. Ended a few days ago, still trying to send out all my thank yous. But now I haven't really touched my book in like a month. I had it with an acquisition editor. And so basically what that editor did during that month was they read through the entire book, and they came up with a plan of how this could actually be marketable, how this could actually be pitched to different people, of what groups am I going for to sell this? What messages am I trying to get across? What do I hope to change in the world by this book coming out? That's what they were helping with, of kind of refining this message chapter by chapter. So I just got all of the revisions about 2 days ago now. And from now, which is May 6th until May 23rd, so this one is a really tight turnaround, I have to go through each of my chapters. And now I'm adding in all of the things that are quote unquote missing. So for each of the chapters, there needs to be a story involved. It wants to have a little bit background of my personal life, but then also people that I interviewed. What can I tell about their stories? It should include some research, some statistics, and a lesson at the end, kind of the things that you would expect in a nonfiction self-help book. So they went through and checked to see if all of them were effective, because I wrote out all of the chapters, but you're not going to get everything right on your first try. And so they went through and they're like, okay, this is what needs to be edited out. You should replace this completely. You should change this a little bit. So I'm going through with the fresh eyes, and this is the third revision process that I've done. So with this third revision process, my acquisition editor is done. She was just for that month. And now the one that I'm working with this week, I guess, we're now meeting. First time working with her will be next week, is the marketing revisions editor. So we now have a goal. We now know from the acquisition editor what the point is. And now we're going through making sure everything is there. So that's the part that I had no idea about editing and book writing and all of that going into it. I thought, you just had to have the idea up front, you have to write thousands on thousands of words about it, and then you come up with this final project. And reality is, this is now my third time going back to these chapters. I have about 2 to 3 more times even after this that I'll be going back. It's both hard, but also it's simple of, okay, I'm just adding 1,000 words per week. I'm just editing these few chapters. So this week I'm still feeling great about, because it's my introduction and the first 2 chapters. This is what started the book. This is how I got my idea. This isn't something that I was like, oh, I have to pull in this other data. Like, this is what I started with and what I had always envisioned. But the interesting thing is I wrote, the 9 chapters after, all after my introduction. So now I'm going back to the introduction with a fresh eyes of like, I wrote another 9 chapters after this. Let's see how it's changed. Let's see how my message has changed. And so I'm really excited for this part of it, but I know that will change. It always changes. Can't feel great about it forever. It is a lot of work. And so that's why I am bringing you with me, especially if this has ever been anything that you had an idea of saying, one day I want to write a book, but it seems like such a big project, so you keep pushing it off. This is your sign. You don't have to push it off. You can take it in baby steps. So with that, let's go inside to get writing. I thought I could write outside because it's so beautiful. It's a little too distracting. Have the glare on my computer. So take it inside. And so unfortunately, I did not realize how bad quality that video was until, got inside and finished it. But I wanted to show you what the revisions actually look like and visualize like what feedback I get and what I do with it. Here you'll see the introduction, which I'm working on first. So my acquisition editor was Christy, and you'll see all of her comments there. Almost every single paragraph, has comments, has highlights, and that's kind of the point of it. As you work with each editor, they're all going to give you feedback on how to improve and make better, because there's never going to be a perfect chapter. There's never a perfect story. That's not the point of this. You'll never get a perfect book. You just keep saying, how can I make tweaks and improve it? And where do I need to focus on most? So here you will see my whole introduction. Almost all of it is highlighted. And for instance, like these are her comments here. So she said for one of them, this concept is good, but the phrasing's a little bit awkward. Another one, is just maybe not accurate, or she doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. Other one is saying to add more detail, add some emotion here. So you get the point, and I won't go through all of it, but this is kind of a sample of what one chapter looks like. And then here is what I got for my whole book. So she spent 1 month going through my entire book, the whole manuscript, and she had a lot of overall feedback, right? If I didn't want to go in and nitpick and, I just said it'll never be perfect. So I don't want to go into each sentence being like, how can I make this sentence better? It's how can I make the whole book better? So that's what we focused on here. So everything's on track, luckily. And this is more detailed manuscript feedback, some things that they loved, some things that is like, see, revision priorities, because you can't make everything a priority. And then this is what my content table of contents looks like currently. So here are my 11 chapters plus the introduction and epilogue. And they actually said no changes needed here. I do have a solid outline of what I'm looking for. Now it's just kind of filling in, as I said, those missing elements. So this is where you can see what I'm actually missing. So each of them has the hook, different stories, primary, secondary interviews, teachings, research, external research. So we go through each one, and everything that's missing or not effective, that's what the goal of between now and May 23rd, so the next 3 weeks. I have 3 weeks to be adding in everything. And as you can see, I did not do the hooks very well. I have every single one basically is not effective. I did not hook anyone with my books. No one would continue reading past the first few sentences. But that is the main focus. I'm adding in all of the missing elements. And that's about it. So if you are working with a different editor, this is the type of feedback that I am getting. It's not, going in and adding in the commas and being like, oh, use a thesaurus for this word, but it's really just an overall picture. And then it's up to you as the author to go in and say, I'm going to take this feedback. And there's also feedback that you can leave behind. There's this yellow, right? It's missing, but intentional. And that's where there's kind of like, it's up to you as the author. Some you really would need it, but others it's like actually no, like you had such a strong stance maybe in these other areas that you actually don't need to add in this missing element here. So that's what I kind of mean by either take it or leave it with the revisions. It's not a science. Writing is not a science, even though I try to make it be. So hope this helped.